Welcome to another Guitarist Tone Lounge. I'm Neville Marten.
And I'm Richard Barrett.
Today we're here to run you through a brand new Boss amp. This is the Nextone Special. And I have another one here. We've done this before. This is the Artist. We did an earlier Tone Lounge on the stage and the Artist, which you can go back and watch if you want to refresh yourself. The idea of this Special was that when we did these, people said, I like that, I wish you could do that. I like that, why can't you do that? I wish you could do that. This, the Special, is the culmination. This is the one that's got, you can actually do all that on it. So this is the, if you like, the professional version of the previous amps.
Yes. And so there are a few key differences. One of them apparently is that Boss's Tube Logic tone circuitry, it's ongoing. They keep developing it, they keep improving it, and this is the latest in that succession. But in a more obvious sense, we obviously have two channels with completely separate sets of controls.
Yeah.
But as well as that, there are some added parameters onto each channel. So the first thing, I suppose, starting with the preamp, is you've got an American or British type EQ curve.
Yeah.
So it's like a tone shaping before you start, before you use the sort of 3-band EQ. In the power amp, you've got controls for what I guess I would call the low-end damping. So as you turn up the bottom, then it will actually damp the bottom end more. So it sounds counterintuitive. With the thing maxed out, then it's really taut.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the top end. As you turn that up, then it becomes progressively more smooth and ultimately distant, so you just have to balance that. What
about the power amps section itself? That looks rather interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that it's got the same 4 discrete analog power amps. But you just are able to have a different one for each channel. So you can have, say, EL34 for your distortion, but if you want a nice chiming clean, you could go EL84 or 6L6.
Essentially, they've split it into American tones, and they say so on the amp. You know, this is the American side and the British side. So on the American side, you've got 6 V6s, which is the small, the classic studio American amp. And then there's the 6L6, which is the classic large American stage combo, if you like. Yes. And then the British are EL84.
EL84, EL34, I suppose, are the British.
So that's the
valves
the
that were
Shadows
available.
Beatles amp and the Cream Hendrix amp, if you like.
Yeah.
So and they do give you those tonalities. There's no doubt about it. As soon as you turn onto the EL34, you get that chime.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember we did run through those in the last video, didn't we?
We did, and you really do. You kind of know what setting you're on without looking. If you turned it, you know, the EL34 is that big, fat, lots of mid-range, strident kind of tone. The 6L6 is that big, tons of headroom.
Yes, and I feel the mids shift. They shift a bit lower.
Exactly.
Somehow.
So you can really tell which tube type you've got. I mean, these are completely solid state, but they're analog. And when you say solid state now or transistor, please don't confuse that with the transistor guitar amps of the 70s, which had that horrible square wave sound. You know, Roland's tube technology and other people's tube technology has come on so far. It's incredible. It's not recognisable as the same kind of thing. And Roland's very keen to point out there's nothing modelling about this. This isn't a snapshot of a sound at one particular moment. They've actually, if you like, looked at the reverse engineered the tone stacks and the gain stacks of actual amps.
Actually, that's reminded me of another thing that's different about this new Special, and that is the speaker. Which is sort of referred to as a Bluebell speaker, unofficially, I guess.
Yes.
But that's reverse engineered, I think.
It is, and that's from a very famous and absolutely loved and very expensive guitar amp speaker from the early days of British guitar amps.
Right,
and,
absolutely.
You'll know what it is. And again, they've reverse engineered that into their speaker in here. And they've used the Waza technology. You would have seen that in some of the Boss pedals, the Wazacraft pedals. Wazacraft is a Japanese idea of superlative, ultimate engineering. So this is the ultimate engineering, and they've, as I say, reverse engineered it into what we have here. And they do sound great.
And taken it to a sort of a new height with modern power handling.
Yes,
so
exactly.
the sort of, you know, the downside of the old gear that we thought we had to put up with, really.
Well, I mean,
maybe not.
This isn't the lightest amp in the world because it's made of a plywood. It's a plywood cabinet, which is pretty meaty, but it's not like lugging some of those aforementioned amps.
Well, yeah, and I find that the alternative to that, you know, the chipboard sounds really disparaging, but I don't know what you'd call it, particle board, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's even heavier.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, this is, I can lift that, and
yeah, and it's incredibly strong. I mean, it's you know.
Yeah.
Okay, Richard's now going to talk you through what's going on the front panel with some sounds as we go. And then we'll maybe play a little piece together to see what kind of noises we can make. Out of interest, I'm plugged into the Nextone Artist, and I've got a clean sound with a bit of tremolo on it, and a dirtier sound with a bit of delay on it, just so you know. But I'm not demonstrating this amp, it's just here as a kind of control, if you like.
Yes. Right, I'm starting with the clean channel, I guess. This is the top channel, and you select with this button here, the green light's on. Now, I've gone for a flat setting pretty much across the board, and I just wanted to go through some of the tone shaping features first. And I suppose if I go from you to me, the first thing is this kind of bright switch, really, of the volume. It just says tone there.
Yeah.
So. Pretty noticeable.
Very noticeable, yeah. Yeah.
So it's another tool in the box to help, shape the sound. Yeah. And it's a very, easy one to use as well. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll take that back off for the moment because I don't want it to sort of camouflage some of these other things. At the moment, this is set on American, which I always equate with a more of a wide band, maybe less mids. And then if I just click British, and then if I do it again without talking in between, it'll probably be a bit more use. So that's without even touching the bass, middle and treble controls. I mean, I guess we'll get to that. I might do more of that on the dirty channel.
They work well, and they do things, but they're not drastic. They don't offer you a mega sweep through things. It's sensibly dialed in, I think.
I think that the thing that I like about that is, you're not a twist of a button from total disaster.
No, exactly.
Yes, it will get really bright with the treble up. Well, now that we've spoken about it, I'll do a quick...
Okay, good.
So there are no, shocks about that, and it's not like balancing on a knife edge. I think if I skip the effects section for the moment, we'll come back to that because I want to finish talking about the tone shaping. So last sort of link in the chain is the power amp, and one of the features that's come in with the Special here is the ability to tweak the bottom and the top, which I'm guessing is what I've also heard described as power amp damping. And the presence is the control that we're all used to seeing. And some amps do have kind of, low-end thump control. Well, this has got bottom and top and presence. So on a clean sound, you can still hear it. It's more effective on dirty ones maybe, but let's... So on 0 like this, that's letting all the bottom end through. Excellent playing from me, well done. And if I just max it, it'll give you a good idea of what happens. This is really damped. Again, it's very hard to know how much of that is getting across to our listeners, but that is much more immediate. There's less subby stuff going on.
And these kinds of I won't call them effects, these kinds of EQ type things, they're very different on a dirty sound or a filthy sound to on a very clean sound or a just breaking up sound. They give you different things. So
Yep. And it has a softening effect,
Yeah.
even of the higher strings, I think, to have it sort of set lower, letting more sort of bass through.
yeah, but if you want that big chugging bottom end, you know, you'll set it one way. If you don't want that big chugging thing, you set it another way.
Yes. And the top, well, let's just set in the middle at the moment.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it wide open here at 0. It's doing nothing now. So potentially a bit more crunchy. And then all the way up. I think one of the things I personally have struggled with most over the years is getting the top end so that I like it.
Yeah,
It's got to cut through,
yeah,
but if it's too muted, then suddenly you hear it next to, I don't know, a hi-hat or something as
and
a
it's
reference
wiped
point.
away.
I
Yeah,
need to brighten
exactly.
it up.
Yeah, yeah, or it's tearing your head off.
Yeah.
That's why certain amps. I mean, a lot of people like the British Class A EL84 kind of amp because it's got a lovely sweet treble. It's really there,
Yeah.
but it's not slicing. Doesn't slice your head off.
Yeah,
It's a lovely sound.
It's like it's been carefully filtered so that all the nastiness is out of
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to a certain extent, you can do that here by, you know, balancing the tone switch, which is like a bright switch, you know, and you've got the bass, middle, treble, and presence, and this bottom and top. I guess I'll just sweep through the presence control
Yeah.
just so we've done the whole set. That's 0. And again, just gone back to 5.
They're very subtle. They're subtle things, and they're the kind of things that you'd probably set once, decide how you like it, not bother with again,
Yeah.
unless perhaps you're in a studio.
Set it to the room.
And you're looking for a certain. Yes, you set it to the room.
We're getting towards the end of the line here, but the next control is the power amp circuit. So
Right.
this is on 6v6 at the moment on the
Yeah.
American side.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just, if we're not getting too tired of my
Yeah,
E chords,
yeah.
I'll keep using that as a reference point and
Okay,
I'll go through.
Yeah,
6L6. What I'll do, I'll go back 6v6 and then I'll switch without saying anything. I mean, you'll notice there's that little glitch. So it's a different circuit. It's not
Yeah, yeah.
designed to be foot switchable.
No.
You can set each channel to have a different power amp,
Yeah.
and that doesn't glitch. Right, so that's what they're calling the American,
The American
sounds.
sound, yeah.
And then if I go over to the EL84, and then EL34. I'm hearing more high mid
yeah.
kind of
yeah.
crunchiness.
Yeah.
So that is running through all of the power amp tubes, and then at the very, very end, you've got boost control.
Yeah.
So that's foot switchable. You've got a solo boost built in that you can preset. You can obviously switch it on or off manually as well.
Nice. Did you say there's a headroom control on there?
Actually, there is a headroom control. So if you've got this all dialed in and you've got a preset and you just need it to be a bit punchier,
Yeah.
then rather than going back through and having to rebuild the sound,
Yeah.
you can click extra headroom.
I
I've
see.
wished for that several times in the past, actually. So yeah, why don't I
Yeah, do.
play a
Well, it's
thing?
quite interesting, that headroom thing, because in my day, when I started to learn to play guitar, what everybody wanted was to crush the front end of your amp as much as possible to get it driving. And all the amps back then were 50, 100 watt.
Uncrushable.
Uncrushable. And so you'd struggle to get it crushed. Today, guitarists have turned that the other way round. They want headroom from those big silver face style amps.
Yes.
And that's what they want. And if you think of some of the players around today, like John Mayer, people like that, it's all about this clarity and headroom. And
Yeah.
you can put your overdrive within that clarity. It's still within that umbrella of clarity.
Yes, absolutely. And I think even Zakk Wylde, his power amps, you know, they're hot rodded, different power amps, different speakers like the EV speakers and things.
Yes.
Because it's all about making this dirty sound, then amplifying it.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cleanly.
Again, people sticking these massively powerful speakers in order to, that, you know, we always wanted the smallest speakers possible so you could kick the hell out of it.
And was it Dave Davies?
Dave Davies
slitting it with
slash the cones and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So shall I? I'll try.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
I mean, you could push this clean channel. I haven't at the moment. What I'm getting in the room is it takes on a bit more.
What I'm getting is that Keith Richards thing, where he plays these riffs, and they're never distorted, but they're so powerful.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting. You think of Start Me Up.
Yes.
It's that kind of riff. It's tons of power, tons of clarity, and not a hint of break-up anywhere in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'll tell you what, I'd be interested to hear some of the presets that you've dreamt up.
Oh yes,
here.
yeah, of course, yeah. Well, this number one is just as it was.
Right.
So everything here now, you can ignore the settings of the knobs. This is a clean. It feels like I can just push it a little bit into a slight breakup.
Yeah, it's nice.
And then for tone setting 2, I've gone for kind of dirty rhythm sound, classic rock, I suppose you'd call it now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. What amps types have you got on there?
Now then, what was that one? That's 6V6.
Right. Yeah.
And I balanced the sort of the treble and the presence quite carefully.
Yeah.
I was thinking about cutting through that thing we were talking about a few minutes ago. You kind of don't want it too pretty, so there's a little bit of edge on there.
Yeah.
And maybe back the mids off just slightly for this particular thing, though, for a lead sound.
Nice
I might
sound,
go
though. Nice sound.
for more.
Yeah,
but it's certainly, it seems like if you... I like the way it responds.
Oh yeah, that's great.
A lot.
I mean, that's going back to the fact that it's discrete analog amps. That's what they do. That's what they do, and that's doing it really nicely. Can you, on that sound, could you play some kind of bluesy licks at the 12th fret and cut through all right? Do you think?
It's supposed to be quite cutting.
Yeah, I
you know,
mean,
for that
that's
aggressive.
almost like a tone for all seasons, really.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I might even use the tone control to smooth it off in places if
or
I...
jump on the boost. Yeah.
Yes.
Jump on the boost for your solos.
Yeah, absolutely, and
yeah.
you can do that. You can have a volume boost or a gain boost, and they can be foot switchable.
Yeah, yeah, that's nice. Okay, what's your Larry sound then?
So I haven't listened to this since I programmed it in, so I hope it's not too over the top.
Okay.
What did we say? Soldano in the
Well,
Albert Hall or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was right. So I'll hit the button, and I've got the guitar volume off at the moment. I would almost never play something on the neck pickup down there like that,
yeah.
but I just wanted to demonstrate that you could without it going.
Yeah, that was a nice. That was a kind of bit slightly Satriani-esque.
I suppose it's there's
a warm, no rough edges to it.
Yeah,
a very kind of mellow distortion, if you like. Should we play a little bit? I'll just play a couple of chords on this, and you can either choose a sound and go through it, or change them as you go. What do you think?
I was wondering whether to go back. I've just hit panel, so that's returned me to the sound we had earlier, and I realised I quite liked that as a. Oh, not that one, so that's fine, but it was just a bit thicker, and I wanted to have that sound back for a while. I said I was going to come back and look at the effects, so I'll do that now. But I'd like to do it on the dirty channel, if that's okay, just to mix things up a bit. So this section of the panel here, these are all foot switchable. There are extra functions you can deep edit. I'll mention a couple of those as we go along. But the first is the boost. So if I just play a little bit without, we'll have a dirty sound. There's no reverb or delay on this, it's just naked. Okay, so let's kick in the boost. I heard that. So I took it back out again there. So if you're using the foot switch, very unsubtle,
so
but
it's just literally taking your sound and doing that, isn't it?
I think it's a gain boost rather than a volume boost, because the volume boost is at the end here. So that's that. And then if I take that off again and I come to delay. So you can see there's a tap tempo there. So let's just set it for a really short one and just turn it up a bit. Too subtle, let's have more. And I believe if I take that to a slower sort of delay, you know, it's quite well engineered. The feedback control is something that you can only access with the deep editing. But as you go on to a longer time,
it sounds like they've got it about right. You know, you do want a bit more when you get those kinds of sounds and everything. So
they've either chosen a very careful sort of compromise, or it does sort of recognise that a bit. So that's kind of cool. The thing about the delay module as well, I understand that you can choose within the deep edit parameters to use tremolo instead.
Okay.
So and that's obviously, you know, you can do that differently per channel. And then finally, I think we have the reverb. So if I take the delay off and just reverb's on about halfway here. I mean, if I go really subtle for a minute and I mean, I really start hearing the tail of it when it's about halfway like that. And let's max it for fun. I feel like I want to go into the supernatural or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so again, you know, all sorts of parameters in the deep edit mode. But I think Boss have chosen what most people are going to like.
I think they've given you a fantastic playground to start messing around with, and they haven't allowed you to go too wrong.
Yes.
Because, you know, I remember the old days when the first multi-effects came out, you go to it and the first sound was like a spaceship landing on Mars, you know, amongst a herd of cows or something. And it was totally unusable. They've done it to show you what they can do. Well, you don't want that.
Everybody used it.
Yeah, so you really don't want that. No, they said quite an intuitive amp, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I think we're some way, decades beyond probably that kind of thing where you've got loads of bells and whistles, and that's not really what they're going for. There's always a risk. It's unavoidable that if there are a lot of controls, then some people are going to say, oh no, but it really isn't like that.
I know.
In fact, it seems to be feedback driven in that people have said, I wish it did this as well. So this is the answer to that.
Exactly. Yeah, one of the nice things about it is that a lot of these parameters can be programmed into your foot switch.
Yes. In fact, I think there are quite a few ways that can be done with the different Boss
they do
foot
several,
switches
don't they?
that are available. And I think the GAFC is the all singing, all dancing.
Yeah.
And that will enable you to switch on things like the tone switch. You'll be able to switch on the solo boosts, obviously the effects, so the boost, the delay, the reverb, and I think you can even hold switches for other functions. You know, it's one of those where you can use it in a variety of ways to suit yourself. So that's handy. And being an open back cab, great for the sound, and you can throw the switch in the back.
That's true. That's true. And I mean, I don't know about you, Rich, but I've minimised the amount of sounds I use on stage now. I don't want 10 different amp models or 10 different this or that, or I don't have, you know, there's my so-and-so amp, there's my so-and-so amp, and I've got all this stuff. I don't want that anymore.
No.
I want to find a sound I like, add 2 or 3 nice effects to it, and I'm on my way. And I bet most people, when they've sorted this out, would be like that. They might say, well, my rhythm, I'll have an American sound. My lead, I'll have a British sound. I think that's where Boss is coming from with that. They're presuming with those different kind of colours, if you like, of the sound, people might use rhythm on the American.
I like it. It gives you that sort of versatility without the potential nightmare of, you know, a parametric EQ on each frequency. I mean, I've got a feeling that you can deep edit and do that stuff if you want to, but it's just that it's not looking back at you on stage when you're thinking, right, I've got a couple of seconds, the drummer's actually counting the next number in, and you...
Exactly.
I mean, I think it would work in the sense that you can deep edit, you can get, you know, often when you get sounds sorted at home, they're great, and then you get them out on stage and you might want to do an extra tweak. Well, you know, then do it on the controls.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're using one of the 3 presets, and I think I might go for a clean, a crunch and a lead. Yeah. But then you can boost within those. So I'll probably, you know, it branches off into different directions. You save one, and if you decided that you want to keep that sound, just hold your finger down and it's saved and it's kept everything else there. So it's pretty easy. So I've got a distorted sound with a little bit of reverb on. Let's start with that as a basis. Sort of classic rock. I'll lose a little bit of that reverb. And why don't I just see if I can maybe fatten things up a little bit. I'll take a bit of that control off the bottom end. In fact, I'll lose it completely for a minute. It takes on a much rounder
It does,
bottom.
doesn't it? Yeah.
And then I'll just go extreme and go to the other.
Okay.
I mean, you can hear that there's slightly less bass on there, but it's also much faster
Yeah.
in its response. And I suppose you could compensate by really adding a lot of bass at the bass control. I might add a bit of gain on there as well, because we're getting a bit more modern. Whoa, I haven't done that for a while. Let's add a bit more gain and see if I can get away with it. You know, it's much faster.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got the depth to it.
Yeah, very much.
But perhaps I'll go a little bit more old school, like me, and have a look at the kind of colours that you get. That was 6V6, so if I go to the 6L6
Yeah.
and turn the guitar up. I mean, you can hear the body of the sound changing.
That's really good, the way the 6L6s are working with the amount of gain you got. Because
Yeah, I like
6L6s usually, within the amp, don't ever have that amount of gain, do they?
Yeah.
Because they tend to be designed to be clean amps.
Clean.
But that's
yeah.
a lovely, that's a really nice sound.
So I'm thinking I'll leave the bottom sort of set as it is, but maybe have a little look at these higher frequencies. And I suppose if I just go across from here and click the tone button, so that kind of adds a bit of bite.
Yeah, definitely.
I quite like that, but
Yeah.
there is a certain focus there. I think the difficulty is playing at home alone. I'd probably not have that on,
Yeah.
but in the band, instantly that would be
Yeah.
on there to get
Yeah.
the clarity to compete
Yeah.
with everything else. I'll leave it on for the minute, but let's just see how the treble interacts with that. And I've got that set quite low at the moment. If I Actually, it's interesting because like a valve amp, if you get that cranked, the way you set the EQ can affect how it will sustain and everything, won't it?
Yeah.
So perhaps I'll go a bit more middly, a bit less trebly, and I'll take a bit of the control. I've added a bit of control at the top, the custom tune section. So top end damping, a little bit less presence. I mean, I'm hearing a lot more sort of a mid thing happening because I've shaved off those highs.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering what will happen if I take that straight to EL84.
Okay.
Which I think complements it better.
Definitely. That's instant Brian, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
You
in
know,
fact, let me put that
instant
boost
Brian,
back
yeah.
on. Is it 6 points of difference or 7? I can't remember. But yeah, that's taken on that rich sort of mids. I'll leave the EQ set as they are and then go EL34. So British stack, I believe.
British stack, yes.
I'll just clean it up a little bit. Whoops, that's the wrong button. I swear I do know what I'm doing. I've taken the boost. So this is just the gain control. So I guess a little bit like if you were running ahead and not using the pedal in the front, and the bass end gets a bit more spongy.
Yeah.
And if we go really spongy, I'll take the control off here at the bottom, so the custom tune again, that's just going down to 0. Out of curiosity, I'm thinking if I reduce that gain and add boost, so I'm putting an imaginary drive pedal in with the level up and the amp gain lower. But with the low damping on the power amp, you can see there's
Yeah,
about 3 or 4 ways you could go.
Yeah.
But that's on the EL34s. So, I mean, if I just go for something like new wave of British heavy metal kind of tone with it, that might be fun. Yeah, everything pretty much.
You took me straight to Birmingham. You know, we say the sounds sound real. They are real because they're made from analog amps.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of, in the mind, it's very easy to misconstrue what these are all about.
I think that what might be misleading to somebody who's seen a whole world of modelling amps and all that kind of thing is that, yes, these do use the names of 6L6 and things like that. No, there were no 6L6s in there, but these are circuits that are designed to react in the same way. They're not a modelling thing, they're an analogue thing.
Exactly. You've demonstrated it just now with your dirty classic British sound with no reverb and no delay on it, and it sounded like you'd plugged into a classic British amp with no reverb, which they didn't have, and that's what the sound that you've got.
Well, the speaker, the design of the speaker, the fact that it's a plywood cab, and there's no huge, great hulking transformer power supply. No,
they're nicely done. It's really nice. This covering, and this lovely leather handle. It's very, very nice. That. One thing we haven't said so far is what's around the back. We won't go into mega detail, but there's a balance line out, so you could take the amp straight to the front of house if you wanted to use it live through a big PA.
And that's speaker simulated as well.
That's speaker simulated, and that's an XLR and a jack, and then there's a recording out as well.
Yep, and doubles as a headphone out.
And there's the USB socket for connecting to your computer for all that deep editing stuff. Various speaker extension sockets and...
Yeah, and the other thing is there's a sort of 3-position switch, so you can have the speaker on, the speaker off, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Kind of anything you want, really. And we haven't mentioned price.
No.
You can tell us that, then, Rich.
It is, I feel like there should be a drum roll, actually.
Okay.
£789.
Great.
That's what it's sort of selling for on the street.
Okay, well, there's a lot of amp there for your money when you consider what you'd have to buy in order to get anything like those sounds.
Yeah, if I had that sort of in my pocket and was looking for an amp, it's
you couldn't.
Not really sure what else you'd find, really.
No. I hope you've enjoyed our run through of the Boss Nextone Special and the sounds that we've made from it. Actually, the sound that Richard's made with it, because he's the one who's been doing all the adjustments and changing the settings, etc. I think we got some pretty great sounds out of it. Richard again has. What do you think about the whole thing?
I think it's extremely well thought through. I guess there's something to be said for the fact that this seems to be customer driven in the sense that have acted on suggestions, and I hope Boss do really well with it. I think they deserve to.
It's certainly the next generation for them, and we think that, in summary, with the Special, the Nextone range has really come of age. We hope you agree, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.